So we're on, what is that? Chavav Amud Aleph. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to do the whole daf. I'm able to prepare, so I didn't understand it. So we'll get a little behind, but as Hashem will catch up. So the Mishnah before has spoken about different scenarios where we don't let a man marry a woman because of a certain chashad, a suspicion, or precaution that it shouldn't make a bad rumor. And the past Mishnah is the last Mishnah we spoke about. Maybe go back even further. They spoke about if somebody had bought a get and he testified, so he can't marry that woman. He assisted in getting her divorced. So we shouldn't think that he was lying, or if he testified that her husband died, so also he can't marry her. After that, the Mishnah spoke about if Chacham was asked to try to be mater neder for a woman, her husband was going to divorce her because of that neder, and he wasn't able to figure out a way to annul the neder, and the husband ended up divorcing her because of that. He's also not allowed to marry her because we don't want, it looks bad. It looks like the reason that he had some ulterior motive and not finding that maybe he was wrong. Now the Mishnah says a few permissions, means even though we said these is soon, they're not allowed to marry, but there are going to be things that we do permit. Here it says, the first one is, if they had wives, these people, and we spoke about that for the get, or they testified that husband died, or he wasn't able to find the Pesach for the neder. So if the only case is when they're not married, they're not married, they have no wife, so then we're choshesh that he was trying to get a wife. But if he married, so we don't assume that he was trying to get another wife. And even though afterwards, subsequently, his wife died, he would be allowed to marry because since he had a wife at the time, we're not going to suspect that he was trying to get a second wife. It seems that people didn't have two wives in those days. It seems, even though it's permissible, a person is allowed to have two wives, more, but it wasn't usual, and a person had a wife, so we're not going to think that he was trying to get another one. The second point, second heter is these women that they got divorced from their husband, whatever the case might have been, either he testified that he came to say that she has a get, and he saw the writing, or he testified that her husband died, and she got married to somebody else, or this chacham that wasn't able to find a heter for the neder, she got divorced, and she didn't marry him. She married somebody else. And then eventually it didn't work out, either because she got divorced or because she became widowed. So then she's allowed to marry him, because again, it wasn't a direct result of the fact that he permitted her to get married, that he got a divorce, or that he testified that he died. That's what you see, that she married somebody else. So the fact that subsequently that marriage was over because of a divorce or because of death, so then they would be allowed to marry. And the third permission is all of these women are permitted to marry the children, the sons, or the brothers of these people. It means if somebody brought a get and he said or he testified that the husband died, the woman is not allowed to marry him, but she is allowed to marry his son, she is allowed to marry his brother. You're not going to say that he planned that I'm going to get her divorced or permitted in order that my son should be able to marry. A person doesn't do that. If anything, will choshesh for himself. He's going to do it for a relative. The Gemara goes back to the first point that it says Mesa. Here it says, the first part of the Mishnah says that if they had a wife, this person had a wife. Let's take one case. He was the one who testified that the husband died, or whatever. They had a get, and then it says that that's only a problem, only choshesh, if he didn't have a wife at the time. But if he had a wife and the wife died, then he would be allowed to marry them. That was the first point in the Mishnah. The Gemara, and then afterwards talks about another case, talks about his guy. Here it doesn't say anything about a get. What if he had a wife at the time, but then he divorced her? Are we going to say that since he had a wife at the time, so we're not going to suspect him because he had a wife? Mesuin is Garshulo. It sounds like in our Mishnah, it's only when it was Mesu, only if the wife died. But if the wife was divorced, means he divorced her, and there is room for sin, because maybe that's the reason why he divorced her. he saw this woman and he wanted to marry her, even though he had a wife, but he wanted to change. So he got this word, he divorced his wife, he got that woman divorced, and then he divorced his wife and then he marries her. So that's what our mission is mashma, that wouldn't be acceptable. Only we would be choshen. Only if his wife died a natural death. So he didn't have anything to do with that. So then we could assume that he wasn't planning on anybody else, and you do trust him. That's what our Mishnah is like. Our Mishnah applies. He brought a brisa that says no, that not only that, even a get also, even if the husband divorced his wife, still he's not suspect that he got that other woman divorced in order to marry her. So it seems to be a contradiction between our Mishnah and the brisa. The Gemara says it depends. Lo kasha. See any kind of unrest between the husband and wife. If, so Rashi explains, this is another shot in Gemara maybe, but the way Rashi explains, if there was already a fight, so we don't see that the get was a result of he wanted to get this new woman. He was whoever the aide or the one testified about the get for this woman, or he testified that she was her husband died. So you don't see that the reason why he eventually divorced his wife is in order to marry her, because we knew there was a fight before that already. How to lie by Ketata if there was no fight before, and all of a sudden now he divorces his wife, now it looks suspicious. Maybe the reason why he divorced is because he wanted to get this other wife. You could also say another teretz, how the law have Ketata, even if there was no fight, and now it's strange, why did he divorce her? So we look into it, who caused this divorce? Who started up this fight between them? Who's the one who started the unrest within their family? Was it the man or was it the woman? If you see he starts making problems all of a sudden, that means that he has some ulterior motive. Maybe he's divorced. He's making a fight in order to get a divorce, in order to marry that other woman that he freed and is able to marry now. But if she's the one who made the problem now, and we don't see any kind of this overrules from him that he got the divorce going, so then it's nothing to do with him. And even though he did divorce his wife eventually, that was her fault. And you don't see that he had any kind of ulterior motive when he got the other woman freed up. It wasn't for his own use, because his own purpose, because he had a wife at the time, and he thought that he's going to be continually happily married. So these cases, so there's no machlokes between the Mishnah and the Brisa. It depends on the facts, how we could analyze the facts if he had an ulterior motive when he divorced his wife.
How do you translate argil?
The word like ragil is like regular, usual. He's the one. Rashi says it means he's the one who started. Does anybody else scroll that could say a translation for that particular word? Rashi says, "But the argil." Rashi says, "Who his fil." So he's the one who started angering his wife. Argil is some word of the one who made it to happen. Like usually the word ragil would mean like regular, some kind of usual. The point isn't the regularity over here as much as the one who started. Anybody with an art scroll? Anybody can help out? If not, okay, that's a general idea.
So the point is, if he started it, then we wouldn't believe him. Do I have that correct?
Right. Now we don't. Even if he started it, then we suspect that he's the one who made the fight in order to divorce her because he wanted to marry this other woman. You see that, which we suspect what's going on in his mind, possibly. So therefore, he's not allowed to marry her. Okay, the next part of the Mishnah said that if she got married in the interim, that after he permitted her, he was an aide to testify that she's mutter to get married, and then she married somebody else, and then she got divorced or widowed, then he's allowed to marry her, because we don't see there was any ulterior motive, because at the time she married somebody else, she didn't marry him. You don't see any kind of a scheming between them. Because it says that before the Mishnah spoke about that he testified that she was divorced. He bought a get, and he said that she is divorced, or this was the divorce document, or they testified that her husband died. That was the Mishnah before. If we scroll back, where did the Mishnah say that? On the Amud Aleph. It was the Mishnah that said that he bought a get, or he said mace. Either he bought a get, he was the one who used the shliach to bring the get, and he said or so he shouldn't marry the wife, he shouldn't marry that woman, or if he testified that the husband died, also he shouldn't marry the wife. Two cases, a get or a death. And if he came to testify that she's divorced or the widowed, he should not marry that woman. Then the Mishnah said over here, that if somebody else married her and then divorced or were widowed, then what did they marry? The Gemara is a side issue. How many times was this woman widowed? How many of her husbands died? If you say the case before says that he testified that her husband died, and she got married to somebody else, and then it says he died. So two husbands died already. So that's not so simple. The Gemara will talk about that. Maybe if two husbands died, she's not the most to marry anybody. Not a question about marrying him because maybe he had ulterior motive. Even if it's at the front of us, maybe she's considered what's called a katlanis. A katlanis means in the Aramaic a killer. That means that if so many husbands died, maybe zakah that the husband is going to die, and therefore no one's supposed to marry her.
Two sons that they died.
But he wanted her to marry the third child. She wanted to. It talks about how many times is a chazakah. The Gemara goes into the issue how many times is a chazakah, 2 or 3. And the Gemara is asking that in our Mishnah, if you say that the case of this almanu is going back on the case where he testified that she was an almana the first time, that means you have 2 husbands that died. So is that going to be a proof that she's still going to be married? She can't marry him because of ulterior motive maybe, but everybody else she could marry. That's the Gemara issue. Gemara just points out that the question.
Why would it make a difference? Why if you can't marry after 2, whether him or somebody?
That's the Gemara's conscious. The Gemara says Mashma over here she could marry somebody else. That's the point. The Gemara it only says he can marry her because maybe ulterior motive, but somebody else could marry. Somebody else should be able to marry because she had 2 husbands that died. The Gemara already gives away the answer that it doesn't say openly that he testified that her husband and now he married somebody else and he died. It doesn't say that. It says a case before about a get or about death, and here again it says about a get or a death. So you could say that the case of that not 2 husbands died, one died, one was divorced, one divorced, or one died. So that's what the answer is going to be. But first, the Gemara starts off because Misa, the Gerushin, and Gerushin. We think that this story is no matter what happened. The first husband died, second husband died. The first husband divorced her, second husband divorced her. Either way, it could have been. If so, name of Masis and the Loka Rebbe. If so, the mission is against Rebbe. Dika Rebbe, Yoma, betrays him, they have a chazaka. Rebbe holds 2 times is a chazaka, and if 2 husbands died, she wouldn't be allowed to marry anybody. The Gemara says no, it's not a kasha. Lo Misa, Gerushin, and Misa. That it's talking about a case that one husband died. And then eventually she married again, and second husband divorced her. Or the first one divorced her, the second one died. But if both of them would have died, then maybe Rebbe would hold that she shouldn't marry because 2 husbands died. That's a law called the katlanis. And there is such a thing that we talk about if a woman had a couple of husbands, how many, 2 or 3? I think we're even by 2, that she shouldn't marry again because maybe she has a chazakah that her husband is going to die. There's an interesting point over here. What if a woman has a chazakah that her husband's divorced her? She was divorced. Are you going to say the same thing that according to Rebbe she shouldn't be able to marry again because she has a chazakah that she gets divorced from? So the halach is that it's okay. But Rashi there is talk about it in Shulchan Aruch, I think. But Rashi seems to say there is such a thing. Right? The Dikah Rashi is mashma that even as far as a divorce, this Rashi only is garish. The Medaik Rashi that is mashma that the issue of the Gemara is not just talking about death; it's also talking about a get. That if a woman was divorced twice, maybe there's such a chazakah. But as far as the halacha, I'm pretty sure that we hold it's permissible of a misgareshes. That you have to make sure that she got divorced 2 times. Let's make sure that she has good midos and everything. Maybe it's chazakah that difficult to live with that nothing, but no halacha.
Over 90+% of the time, it's the man. We thought that's no good, and it's not the woman. The woman is only a reflection of the man. So
I don't.
why are you punishing the woman because the 2 guys that she had were not?
Yeah, but I don't think that it's necessarily like that. I don't know. The court system sometimes starts off like that, and they don't look at the facts at all. I don't think that it's such a fact. It's more like the women's liberation and the feminists that I don't think that it's there's no given. There's no given. The pasuk says that there's 1 man in 1,000, but I haven't found a woman. It means it isn't like all the women are sitkanios. It's not a given that all the women are great. Not a given. Each case for itself. But there's no halacha over here. But there's no halacha here. There's no halacha that by a katlanist it says halacha that maybe there's a chazakah that the husband dies, so maybe don't marry a woman that many husbands died already, 2 or 3. But by Gerushin, I think the halacha we're not cautious for this Rashi that seems to hold that she's muchzekes mitgareshet. The next halacha says, "Kulan with the name halachim." Last part of the Mishnah was that if somebody testified, you don't say that it was in order to get a wife for his son, for his brother, and all of these chashashas is only if it's personal. But if it's a relative, we're not going to be cautious for that. But there is a side point that we still shouldn't let the son or the brother marry. I'll just give a Akdama, I will show it if it helps using.
The son of the brother can't marry her.
This says it could. It says it could.
Right.
It says that here's a man and a woman. Let's say a case where there was a suspicion that we're having chance that they were too close. Some affair maybe. So a certain man and a certain woman. So here it says in our Mishnah that the son, it seems our Mishnah didn't talk about this case exactly, but just to take it loosely. Our Mishnah spoke about if there's some suspicion that he wants to have relations with her. The case that he brought a get, that she should be divorced, or he testified that her husband died. So it says don't marry her, because it might be with ulterior motive, or if he was the chacham and he wasn't able to find the heter for this woman to be matnet there in order to stay with her husband, and the husband eventually divorced her, he should marry her. But the Mishnah says, but the son or the brother could marry, because we're not going to say that he had this whole scheme in order to get a shidduch for his brother or for his son. So the son could marry her, the brother could marry her. We'll talk about soon about the father also. Doesn't say so in the Mishnah, but we'll get to that soon. But he only does it, the only suspicion is only if he wants it. That's our Mishnah. Not anymore, he talks about a different case. Here's a case where there was a suspicion about this man and woman that they had relations. And it says that he shouldn't marry her mother, her sister, or her daughter. He shouldn't marry his mother, her sister, or her daughter. Why not? Because if he's going to marry them, I will choshish that they have some kind of a relationship. Was it ever?
Because if
No, even if they had relations, it wouldn't make it Russer,
Why?
all because it was out of marriage. It's only us if there was a marriage.
I thought only rape doesn't count. But if it's with the consent, that's what it is.
If she was not a married woman. If she was a married woman, then she'd be usher. If she was married, then she's usher to marry him. Period. Not the mother. If it's nus, then it wouldn't usher the mother.
Good.
Only marriage. Only marriage. The isha bita, a mother and a daughter, or a mother and a granddaughter, is only usher if it was through marriage. So here it says that even if there was a suspicion, let's say you said, like I said, she was married, whatever, there was a suspicion that this man had relations with this woman. So he's not allowed to marry her. It says he also is not allowed to marry her mother, sister, or daughter. Why not? Because if he's going to be married to the mother, and the daughter comes to visit her mother, it means he'll be around her also. We don't want him to be around her. And that's very dangerous already, because now it's going to be Isha Bita. It's going to be a mother and a daughter, even if she's not married anymore. But she's going to be married. After this is a marriage, if he does marry her, then he's not going to be allowed to be with, there'll be a chiyuv sreifa if he's going to be with her daughter or her daughter. He shouldn't marry the daughter, because the mother's going to come to visit the daughter, and he's going to hang around with the mother. Or he should marry the sister, because she's come to visit her sister. So if there's a suspicion between this man and this woman, not only should he not marry her, he can't marry the relations also. And the Gemara is asking, if so, to the same thing you should do over here. It's true that there's no suspicion maybe that he had ulterior motive by for his brother or for his son to say Eid Sheker. But if we have some kind of chash that he's interested in this woman, so we shouldn't allow the brother to marry her, because again, he'll be visiting his brother and the woman, or the son shouldn't marry because he'll visit his son, and that woman is there, and it's his daughter-in-law. So that's the most question. The cooler with her of name Olachem. Why is it different than the Mishnah that says that if somebody is suspected from a certain woman, so he's not allowed to marry her mother, her daughter, or her sister? And as we explained, the chash is because after they get married, he'll be too close to that suspected woman. So too, he also should be choshesh that after his brother or son are going to marry this woman, he'll be visiting also, and we don't want to have that they should be together, close. Even if there's no yichud, they shouldn't have a relationship. So the more answers two tirutzim. Nashi l'gabi nashi shchicha the aslan Gabri legabri gabri lo shchichan. So let's go to the chart a second if it helps anything. That in this case, where we don't want him to marry the mother, sister, or daughter, because women visit each other. So if he's going to marry the mother, the daughter will come. The daughter will come to their mother. The mother will go to visit her daughter. Sister will go to visit her sister. So that's why we're scared that's going to be too much, too close for comfort. Too close for comfort that he should be married to the mother, sister, or daughter because they'll be living. But here, what do you choshesh for? That their son should not marry them because the father's going to come visit his son. A father doesn't done so much. And the other way also, that the brother should not marry because he'll visit his brother. He don't visit a brother so much. The sisters visit more each other than a brother visits a brother, or that a father visits a son. And the Gemara is going to go soon also, and also that a son visits a father. It means that the father also should be wanted to marry, because what's the problem? The son's going to visit his father. The son doesn't visit a father so much. The men don't do so much visiting as much as the ladies do. That's the Gemara's kasha soon. But let's see one more line of Gemara before we get there. That was one teretz. That women visit each other, and men don't visit each other. That's one teretz. Inami nashi de lo shchivas and adadi lo kapti adadi. But Gabri the asun shchivas and adadi kapti adadi. We'll see that inside. I mean on the chart if it helps. If let's say this again, this is the suspect couple. We don't want them to be together. So if he's going to marry the mother, and he's going to end it, so daughter's going to be around, and he has an affection to this woman, maybe he's going to have relations with her. So what's going to happen if he does? Is this woman going to lose her husband? Her husband relations with her daughter. Is the married woman what?
Isn't that adultery?
It's adultery, yes, it's adultery. Sure, but who's adultery? The daughter was adultery. This man married this woman, and her husband had relations with her daughter. Is that
they're both chayv misa?
I'm not talking about chayv misa. I want to know who's chayv misa. The one, what did she do? What did the mother do?
I'm not talking about the mother. I'm talking about the
Okay, you're right. So this couple, if they had a union, they'd be chayv misa, yes. But there's no bezdin, there's no eidim, whatever it might have been. Is this woman going to lose her husband? Let's say it'll be verified that the man had relations with her daughter.
I would say yes.
Why should we
think not?
Well, who becomes usher? Who becomes usher?
The husband.
A man.
The husband is a.
He's a terrible guy.
No,
he deserves a lot of what?
I thought that there was an obligation never to have a relationship with that man again.
No, where does that come from? No, where do you think that from? So that's what I'm saying, that it's not going to, the wife is not going to lose her husband because of that. She's not going to become, no one's going to become usher. That means, again, here's the next case. This man marries this woman, and let's say the husband is going to have relations with her sister. So it's chayv koros, it's terrible. But is there going to be an obligation to him to divorce his wife? No. If he marries the daughter and it ends up that he had relations with the daughter's mother, is that going to answer this relationship? No. So these women are not ultimately concerned, as much as we'll see in a second. That's much more concerned if someone's going to lose their spouse. And let's finish off, and then we'll go back to questions. Bashenkin, the Gemara is saying over there's more chash that he's going to have relations because women are not so nervous about that the husband might have relations with this woman because it's not going to stop their marriage. But in this case, about the brother and the son, what was the case over here? That we're choshesh for this couple. These two people, we don't want them, they're too close to each other. We want to keep a distance. So the halach is that the brother or the son are allowed to marry her. What was the kasha? That maybe if the brother's going to marry her, this suspect is going to be in the vicinity, he'll come visiting, and he'll have relations with her. That the Gemara says no. This man, the husband, is going to lose his wife. If his wife is going to be mezana, she's going to be usher. This is what you're thinking about, that if a woman is mezana, she's usher to the husband. So the brother is not going to be, by no chance is going to let that his brother should have relations with his wife, because he's going to lose. And also here, the son, if the son is going to marry her, and then the father is going to come and have relations, so he's going to lose his wife. So he's not going to let it
because she's going to be
usher, right? She's going to. If relations out of marriage, so then she's lost to the husband. So there's a big guard that is not going to happen. So therefore, we don't have to ask the brother or the son for marrying that woman because there's no chance that this suspect is going to get her hands on that woman. The Gemara is going to continue to talk about it. How come it doesn't talk about the father? The Mishnah doesn't talk about the father. The Mishnah just talks about the brother and the son. How about the father? And according to the logic we're saying, it should apply to the father also. All the same things, that father should be allowed to marry her. And the Mishnah doesn't say that. It doesn't say so. That's the Gemara's kasha now. First wide line. Ihachi aviv nami. Why doesn't it talk about the father? The Mishnah, just notice the Mishnah, it says, it doesn't say ulavihim. It doesn't say the father also. The other brisa where it spoke about the women, it said all three. It said also be'ima, b'bita, b'chosa. And here it just talks about the brother and the son. It doesn't talk about the father. The Gemara says that goes without saying. Let me buy a kama. Let me buy a aviv. The buzzes mean the name mine. Aval beno the lo buzzes aviv mine yemalo kamash malan. The Gemara says that it goes without saying that there's no chash over there. That means that if what's the case over here? That the father is allowed to marry, and what's the chash? That maybe the son is going to have relations with the father's wife. That doesn't happen. It's very rare that such thing should happen because the son is his father. He's not going to start up with his father's wife. The father is going to, even as far as becoming usher and that goes without saying. The chiddush of the Gemara is that even the other way, like the Gemara, yes, and therefore he wouldn't have relations with his father's wife. But the other way, that the son, so then the father would feel more comfortable, so to speak, that he would have relations with his son's daughter. He's not scared of his son. That would be a havamina. That this goes without saying, but this is less of a, this is more of a chiddush, that even the son or the brother, that they're not so scared, they also are not going to have relations. Because, as the Gemara says, either because they don't visit Bichlal, and even if they do visit, the husband is very much on guard because he doesn't want to lose his wife. So they're not going to let such a thing happen. If that's good, we go on to the next paragraph. Okay, permission. Goes on. This is the third paragraph already. This is already easy already. We had this a couple of times already. So even though it's complicated, but it became easy. 4 brothers, 2 of them married to 2 sisters. And the ones married, the sisters died. They have to do chalitza not yibum. So back to one of our recent pictures, but I just made a new one. Oh, here it is. What did I do? No, it's the wrong one. No, the wrong one. 1 second. Oh, here it is. Okay.
It's an old picture, no?
What's that?
It's an old picture, no?
It should have been old, yeah. 4 brothers, 2 of them married 2 sisters, and the 2 that married the sister died. So they both fall to Yibum. The 2 brothers. Could they do Yibum?
No.
Oh, so Chaim David says that since both of them are obligated to each one of the brothers, so he can't marry any one of them. Why? Because she's a sister to another one who's a kuka. She's kuka, each one is obligated, can't take another one either, because she's kuka.
I would say that let them both marry at the same time.
Right now, the 2 husbands
I
died.
understand, but there's 2 brothers. If they go in
But
agreement that they're both,
your answer is not addressing the question. Achos kukasa, that the same way it's also to marry a sister of a wife, it's also to marry the sister of a kuka. Right now, there's kuka.
yeah.
So you can't marry achos kukasa. The Gemara, maybe referring about the Gemara said a couple of pages ago, that after one, that even if they shouldn't have, once one does marry, so the Zika is taken care of, so the other one should be able to marry. That the Gemara says that the Gemara said yesterday or the day before that since it's also a Yevama, she's also a sister-in-law, she's a brother's sister, so a brother's sister that's not allowed to do even for one time. Achas, they were usher one time. For one time, he was usher to marry them because it's a brother's wife without Yibum. Yibum was not permitted. So once it was usher as a brother's wife, that Isha stays forever, even if the Zika goes off. Chalitza. They can get chalitza from the same brother, maybe, I'm not sure, or each one gives chalitza. They need chalitza, they can't do yibum. Again, why can't they do yibum? The Gemara is going to say 2 possibilities. What we learned so far was the host. We learned both of them already. but let's take it easy at this time. That both of them are as kuka to both. So he can't marry either one of them. Neither one brother can marry either one of them because it's a sister of a kuka. So he can't marry. So what do? So you do chalitza. So both of them get chalitza and they go free. Oh, and let's finish the Mishnah. Let's finish the next case already. What if they did marry? What if they married? What if he married her and he married her? What do you say?
Yeah, you leave them in the match.
So he says you leave them. Do you leave them? Let's see the Mishnah. It says leave me there, but they have to divorce. That even if they took them, why? So we said that's what he just said. That since it's also a yevama, besides being, if you said just a zika, if it's only from a b'chos kukasa, then it's true that once they marry, then each one the zika goes off another one. But since here it's also a sister-in-law, both of them are sisters-in-law, right? So at one point they were sisters-in-law, a brother's wife that was not allowed to do yibum. So one says a sister-in-law is not allowed to do yibum, that becomes forever. It was an erva, the erva doesn't go off. The erva of a brother's wife usually goes off because of yibum, but he would not allow yibum. So once it was, we can look back in a couple of pages where it said that once there was a yevama of brother's wife that wasn't allowed to do yibum, so then that issue stays forever. We did have cases where they weren't sisters. There were other cases, achos kukoso, as the zikah goes over the system. But if you want to say at all, there was a man, two brothers, one had a wife who had a sister. So he's not allowed to marry the sister. But once he did chalitza to that woman, so then another brother would be allowed to marry there were three brothers, started with three brothers. So then there's us to marry achos chalitza. But besides that, another brother would be able to marry. We had a couple of pages. Maybe I can get back to the drawing for that. Okay. But anyway, here it says that even if they married, they have to divorce them because it was at one point, the Gemara here doesn't explain, but the Gemara before explained, since at one point there was a brother's wife that doesn't have heter of yibum, so she's also forever. Maybe I could find it if we just go back a second.
Rebbe, when it says ve'im kadmu, that means before chalitza was done. Is that what the kadmu is?
Yes, kadmu v'kansu means that they proceeded yibum instead of doing what they're supposed to do. They didn't ask any questions and they did yibum.
Yeah. Okay.
But then the question is, do you let them stay? So here it says you let them stay. Just find this Gemara here.
It says yatsu, you don't let them stay. What do you mean you let them stay?
Right. We'll see in a second that someone argues. But here the Gemara. Here's the Gemara. What opposite? On Chav Gimel Amud Beis, Chav Daled Amud Aleph. Here the Gemara discussed how come after they married. This is Mamash Mishnah. Over there talks about the case where there was he didn't know which one he married. This was the case we had a couple of days ago. So over there it says that once they Zika was taken care of, then they are allowed to. Here the Gemara is kasha from our Mishnah, and to see the Gemara over there, the Gemara said Rashi's explanation that since here it's also Yevama, so that Issa stays even after the Zika goes off, it still was a brother's wife who wasn't allowed to do Yibam. That stays forever. But Agav, the Mishnah up here continues that in parentheses, so to speak, that even though the Mishnah says here we says Shama is more lenient and says that they could remain married. Once they did, if they did, they shouldn't have done even, but if they did, then they could remain married. So we pass like Basila, even according to Belazar, pass like Basila, but according to our version, there's no machlokus even if everyone holds Yotziyah. The Mishnah continues. If one was an Erev, yeah, but both an Erev already. But if again, four brothers, two of them married, two sisters, they died. But it happened to be that this man and this woman are Erev to each other. So he could marry his sister because it's not Achos Kukasa. So therefore it's not called Achos Kukasa. So he's allowed to marry this one. And if there'd be another brother also, we Erev to that one. So he wouldn't be a skuka to her. This would not be a chos kukasa, and therefore would be allowed to marry her. See the Mishnah inside.
How do we get the erva that the two brothers are? If it's sisters, why isn't the other brother an erva to that sister? It's because it's like through marriage or something.
Let me just get the picture on. What are you referring to?
let's take the red, the red man and the red.
It's his daughter. This is his daughter. The red girl is a daughter of the red man. So there's no reason why his brother couldn't have married, but now he can't marry her, but he could marry her. Is that good?
I see. Okay.
And also, like all 15 of them, the 15 cases of the erva could be to one brother, not to the other brother. Same way it was mutter to this brother, it's his brother also.
Okay.
Okay. If one was an erva to one, so then he'd be allowed to marry the other one, and the other brother can't marry either one. The other brother is not an erva to either one. He's not an erva. My picture showed that both of them are. I so the next case, it's a mitzvah, it's a kedusha, if that relation would be not an erva of chiv koris, only Allah, Bona. So then break the yibum, but they can't. But they have to. But they have to do chalitza. It is called a chos kukasa still. So he has to do chalitza. And this is the case we just said. Asur lazeh muteres lazeh, asur lazeh muteres lazeh. V'zui shamru achos lekshiyavimta o chaleses homos yevemes. That was the picture we just did. That both of them are ever to each other. So this is a case of two sisters that are sisters-in-law that they could get yibum, even though usually we say achos kukosa cannot do yibum. But here's achos kukosa, which would mean that sisters that are sisters-in-law, in this case, usually would not be able to do yibum. You have to have chalitza. Over here, you would be able to. Here I had. What did I do over here? This was a mistake, I guess. This picture seemed to be a mistake. Okay, I forgot about that one. This is the one we were looking for. So first I had one case that if only be one erva, then the Mishnah says that both of them are erva, and both of them would be allowed to do yibum to the other wife.
Oh, because they're not so
Because each one is not a skukah to the other one. The Mishnah Gemara continues. Shema mina yezika. So the Gemara is going to talk about what we just spoke about, but we only said one side of the story. We didn't say both sides of the story. We're going to finish soon, so we're not going to go too much further. I didn't get too much further. So the Gemara says, the fact that it says that he's not allowed to marry, the brothers are not allowed to marry, why is that? Like Chaim David said, because of Chos Kukasa. That means yesh zika. We had a big question about this a few times already. Do you say that there's a zika? It has a lot of ramifications. One of them is there in the Sefer of Chos Kukasa. So if our Mishnah says that you're not allowed to marry, that the two brothers would not be allowed to marry the remaining wives. If not for the zika, then why not? Why shouldn't they be able to marry? There are two brothers that died, and each one has a wife. It's not called. Speaking out, it's not one brother. It's two separate wives. Both of them have to do yibum, and there are two available brothers. Of course, one cannot marry both. That's true. One cannot marry both because he's becoming sisters. But if you have two available brothers, why shouldn't one marry one marry the other one? The Gemara says must be yezika. What does yezika mean? That each one cannot marry either one because each one is a sister of a zakukah. Like Chaim David said, achos kukasa on both ends. Both brothers cannot marry because of achos kukasa. Now the Gemara is going to say another pshat. The Gemara is going to say another possibility which Ramash mentioned, but we mostly spoke about achos kukasa. The Gemara is going to say another possibility why they cannot marry. There's no zika, no achos kukasa, no problem. Still, we don't let them to do yibum. Why not? Because if they're going to do yibum, what's going to happen to that sister? After he did, let's say he did yibum. Let's say one brother does yibum to one. What happens to the other one? Could he do yibum? Could he do anything? What's the other one becomes his wife's sister? Even if you don't know ain't zika, but after he marries her, after he does yibum, he's mamash's wife. So could he do yibum to the sister?
Oh, because after they married the one sister, the other sister's husband died.
Two men died. Both of them are holding the yibum. They're waiting for yibum.
Yeah.
And let's say, that ain't zika. There's no problem about chos kukasa. Don't erase it, but put it in the freezer. There's a man that says a chos kukasa, but let's say we don't hold it. The Gemara is going now. There's no such thing as a zika. So there's no issue of chos kukasa. So he should be able to marry her, right? Could he marry the second one?
Once he's married the first one?
Yes.
No.
Why not?
They're not sisters.
They are sisters.
So then what? He's not allowed to marry two sisters.
Right, very good. So once he marries one, he can't marry the other one. Could he do chalitza to her?
Sure.
There's no zika anymore.
Was that Levi Yaakov?
There's no Zika anymore, is there? Once he does.
Why is there no Zika? No, we're not holding now no Zika. Forget about Zika. There's no Zika. We're holding now ain't Zika. I'm going further in the Gemara. First, the Gemara says Yesh Zika and Achos Kukasa. Now we're going ain't Zika. But I'm explaining what the Gemara is going to say now. Even if you hold ain't Zika, there's still usher for them to do Yibum. Why? Because once it does Yibum to one, then the other one is the erva. It's called his wife's sister, and there's no Yibum or Chalitza. And that's called that it was Mavatal Mitzvah Yibam. He was Mavatal Mitzvah Yibam. There's no Yibum and no Chalitza. So that's another reason. Even if you hold ain't Zika, that's another reason why we should not allow to do Yibum, because if you do Yibum to one, then the other one is automatically no Yibum and no Chalitza, because it's a Chos Ishta. It becomes an erva. Not clear.
Why don't you just say that once he married the one sister, that's it's there he did it.
Yes.
He did Yibum.
Yes.
And you can only have done one of two to the other sister, either Yibum or Chalitza.
Now we can't do it. Now we can't do anything. Now we can't do anything.
What about the other brother?
I'm saying, how about the brother?
Yeah.
If there's another, if I put away the brother, there's no other brother. If I go like this, there's only one brother. So then we'll tell him, don't, even if there ain't Zika, if you hold Yesh Zika, that's what I said originally. Yesh Zika, so you can't marry either one of them because each one is a Chos Kukasa. But if you say ain't Zika, so then he should be able to marry one of them. But the Gemara says that's a problem because they're being Mavatal Mitzvah Yibamim. You're nullifying the mitzvah to the other one. The other one now cannot get Yibam or Chalitza. That's called that you messed it up. You took away the possibility to do a mitzvah. So therefore do Chalitza to both of them rather than to do Yibam to one, and the other one is not going to have anything.
Why can't he do Chalitza on the sister?
Because it's his wife's sister, it's his erva. There's no.
Yes, Chalitza is also. Chalitza is not marrying. It's the opposite.
But there's no Mokum Chalitza because it's the first Mishnah in the Masechta that Chamesh Esrei Noshim Potra so saying, and there's no Yibam or no Chalitza when it's erva. So there's no Yibam no Chalitza. So this woman, it's true she can marry. She can go out and get married now. But it's called the Mavatal Mitzvah Yibam. Before she could have. I don't know what it means exactly. There could have been a mitzvah done of Chalitza, and now you can't do it anymore. So therefore, give Chalitza to both of them.
You want some and you lose.
So he could do Chalitza to both. Better do Chalitza to both of them. They both got something.
He wants to marry her. He wants to keep his brothers see the love.
Yes, I hear. I don't know the answer, but there's some kind of thing called Vasal Levatal Mitzvah Sivaman. I don't know what it is. The mitzvah, she's going to go able to marry. She's going to go free, but he didn't do neither Yibam nor Chalitza. He made her into a wife's sister, and therefore she's going to go without anything. It was, and now Chaim David brings in the point. And if there's another brother, now it's not a problem. Let him do Yibam to her, and he do Yibam to her. If you hold in Zika, and that the Gemara says it sounds good, but maybe after he does Yibam, that brother's going to die.
That's the substance maker. That's not fair.
Okay, but that's what the Gemara says. He's saying maybe.
Yeah.
And even if he dies, what's going to happen? That she's going to go free without getting chalitza. Okay, that's what Allah. The Allah is that she's mutter. This mitzvah to do Yibam or chalitza sounds so strong. I don't know what it is. Even though we're going to free her, it's not going to be Avera done. But since there was a mitzvah of Yibam, don't take away the Yibam or chalitza. Don't take away the possibility to do it. Let's see what the Gemara says. First, the Gemara thought Yesh Zika, because if you hold in Zika, what's the problem? There are two sisters from two different husbands. Each one should do Yibam. The Gemara says, I could tell the Memelacha in Zika. Mishum Tukasava, also Levatal Mitzvah Yibam. Dilma, the Miyabam Chad, Mayasidach, become Batal Mitzvah Yibam. No, there are two brothers available, but after one does Yibam, the other one might, and then he's not going to be able to do the second wife. The Gemara says, Yihachi Tlasanami. Why does it talk about four brothers? How about if there be three brothers? So the Gemara goes something like this. So again, only three, not four brothers, only three brothers. So if the pshat will be, the Gemara wants to know why doesn't it say this case? Why does it say a fancy case of four brothers? How about three brothers? So the Gemara goes the way Rashi explains. If you hold the issue with Zika, we have two possibilities now. Why is he not allowed to do Yibam? Either because he is Zika, so it's called a Chos Kukasam, or because if he's going to marry one, then the other one is going to go away without Yibam or Chalitza, Asalavat Mitzvah Yibam. So the Gemara says, why doesn't it say this case? Bishlam, if you hold the Isser is because the Chos Kukasam, that the reason why he's not allowed to marry is because each one is considered the sister of a Zakukah. So then I understand why he said this case, because this is a bigger Chiddush. Here, you might think that there's a Zika, there's only one brother, so then he's the only possible choice. That's a strong Zika, because he's the only one in the radar that could do Yibam. So that's a strong Zika. But if there are two brothers, then the zika to either one is not so strong because why look at me, look at him. So you might that's a chiddush to say that you say yeh zika even my two brothers. That's why the Mishnah said four brothers to tell you a chiddush that yeh zika not only one brother, even if there are two available brothers. But the Gemara is asking if you say asl batal mitzvah sibamin, why is there a difference between one brother around or two brothers around? If you say asl batal mitzvah sibamin, then there's no difference if there's one or two. The Chaim Dover is going to jump up and say, of course, there's a difference because if you have another brother, so there's no asl batal mitzvah. Who says he's going to die? There's a big chiddush to say he might die. That's what the Gemara is going to answer. The question is what the Gemara thought in the Kasha. Tosha talks about it, but just to leave that for a minute, just to read the Gemara. Why does it talk about four brothers? Why not talk about three brothers? The Gemara answers, it goes without saying. If it would only say three, three brothers are there and two of them died, then I would think that's the reason that you're not allowed to marry one, because you're definitely going to be involved the mitzvah even from the second one, because there's no other brother over here. But if there's four brothers, and even after one does Yibum, there's another brother available to even to the second one, you might think you're not choshesh for death. Who says that he should die? Why should he die? After one does Yibum, the other one does Yibum, and the next day, the next week, why should he be choshesh? Kamash plan, you're choshesh for death. The Gemara says, Yachi, Chamisha, Nami. What if they have five brothers? There were five brothers, two of them died, and you have three brothers that are surviving. What's it then over there? It should say, are you going to say over there also? Now, if you hold the Ezika, again, we have two pshatim now. If you hold the Ezika, so then if they have five brothers, then 10 brothers, there's the Zika, and you're not like all of them are considered achos kukasa. You wouldn't be allowed to marry any of them. But the Gemara is asking, but if you hold by death, is there any more chiddush by five? The Gemara says no, by five it's not going to the misa the trade lo chashina. We're not choshish that two brothers are going to die. According to this mandiyam attack, if you have five brothers and two of them die, then they could do yibum. The first one could do yibum. Another one do yibum. Right, and you're not choshish two brothers are going to die.
Yeah,
that's what we're choshish for already. That's the end of the Gemara. It starts the new Gemara now. And I wasn't able to, so we'll have to stop a little bit earlier today.
It's good. It's a small one anyway.
Okay. Yes, everybody. Thank you, and have a good day. Tomorrow, we'll be continuing. If it's good, everybody. So to talk about Pesach, I could do. Let me just close the.